Salamun, dear brothers and sisters. This is the third episode of alhaq.com podcast. We'd like to welcome all of you. We have a guest today. We're going to introduce him in a minute. But I wanted to talk about the last two episodes that we did. We discussed the Quran versus Hadith. We also discussed my personal journey towards the Quran alone space. And in that regard, I've also mentioned the fact that I sympathize with a lot of people out there who are trying to find your way and you're mired in confusion. What is hadith? What is sunnah? What is fiqh, usul? What are all these things that people are telling you? And how do you sift through all of that? And so everything has an interconnectedness in this world. So your wellness, mentally, physically, spiritually, they're all interconnected with each other. And sometimes the answer lies in finding that center on addressing these issues. For example, someone suffering from mental problems could have a harder time finding that center. Other people who are suffering from financial difficulties or personal issues, heartbreak or loss of a loved one, etc., that can impact your balance. And I often speak about the fact that people who give advice about finding your way or taking it easy in life, it's easy for us to talk with our bellies full. There are other people who are suffering that we should sympathize with. Keeping that in mind, alhaq.com platform wishes or aims to provide a bit of a holistic platform where if you have any kind of issues in your life, we try to help in whatever limited capacity that we can. We try to help with those kinds of things. So I encourage you guys, if you have any confusion, any problems, come on to the Discord server. Go to that website on the QR code that's in this video, or just go to alhaq.com and reach out to us. Inshallah, we'll try and integrate you with our community. There are many Discord servers, politics and religion, and so on and so forth. It's very busy. We try to focus on quality and the caliber of the people. And speaking of the caliber of people, I'd like to introduce our first guest. He's known as DQuestion on the Discord server. Last time I mentioned that how many people around the world are intimidated and coerced and bullied under the threat of personal safety, under the threat of death to themselves or their family members. It's the saddest state of affairs that we claim to be following Deen al-Haq, and we need to force people and fearmonger people and intimidate people and bully people to follow what we want them to believe. So I'd like to introduce DQuestion to the stage. This brother has been active in translation of the Quran to Malay. And welcome DQuestion to the alhaq.com podcast. And brother DQuestion, I understand you're from Malaysia.
Yep, I'm from Malaysia actually, Kuala
And
Lumpur.
Kuala Lumpur, nice. I understand that brother Imran Hussain is also in KL.
But he refused to take my calls. I'm not sure why. Probably I just try to
I
meet up
think
with
you
him.
might have
Yeah.
better luck reaching him through emails. He does answer emails.
He's really passionate about his eschatology.
Excuse me, I had a little bit of a cough. Right. So DQuestion, can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing, your background?
Actually, I was born in the Bahay faith. If you have have you heard about the Bahay faith, right? It's an offshoot of the Shia religion, and then it sort of crystallized into some sort of like Christian church. It's called the Bahay faith, and their religion is similar to, how to say, a filtered version of Islam. It took away the Sunnism, the Shiaism, and they tried to come to a true Islam, and then they made a church around it, which again made it into another sect. So I was in that for about 25 years of my beginning of my life. And then I became a Sunni Muslim due to interest in marriage, to marry my wife. Here in Malaysia, we have to convert to Islam to get married to a Muslim.
Oh,
So there's no such thing as you having your own religion. They must be in the same religion to get married as for Muslims. So I converted to Islam. I said La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and that's the Shahada. Sort of came from the Shahada. I studied about Islam for the next like 15 years maybe, right? So then from there, as I kept on studying, if you ask me about this Bahay, do you want me to go on from there?
yeah, I'd like to know more about Baha'i faith, and also in how did Baha'i faith, or how rooted is Baha'i faith in the Malaysian culture?
No, it's not in the Malaysian
It's not.
culture. It's really the Ministry or the Islamic Affairs have already came up with a fatwa that says the Baha'i faith is not part of Islam. When they
Okay.
say it's not part of Islam, it's not part of Sunni Islam lah.
Correct.
So by doing that, all Baha'is are considered as kafirs lah. But in this country, kafir doesn't mean anything. It just means that you're non-Muslim lah, basically non-Muslim. So you cannot use the word Muhammad, you cannot use the word Allah, Alhamdulillah, and all those things which are reserved for Muslims, which is a very funny thing. And this thing is only in Malaysia.
You can't use those words?
I know it sounds peculiar, right, for an international audience, but in Malaysia, this thing, it's a thing. If you're a non-Muslim, you cannot use the word Alhamdulillah in your official speech. Among friends is okay, but if you're a CEO of a company, and you're a non-Muslim, you cannot use this word Alhamdulillah, because here there's a segregation between Malays and non-Malays, and Malays represent Muslims, which is a very funny idea lah. I understand that it's mind-boggling, right? So every Malay, according to the Constitution of Malaysia, every Malay must be a Muslim. For him to get out of Islam, he cannot do that. So he must follow the Islam or whatever brand of Islam that Malaysia pushes down his throat.
Wow. So it's a state-run religion.
Yes, correct. It's a state, and all those, right? And we have so many kings, right? Every king, we got 14 states, but 2 of them are federal. So the rest are non-federal states, right? And the non-federal states, they have their own kings. And their own king, and every king is the leader of Islam in their own state. And they all have their own Sharia. So most of the states in Malaysia are Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And there's one state called Perlis, and that one is more of Salafi. They're more Salafi, they're more closer to the Sunnah Bida'ah kind of stuff. So we have 12 states like this. 12 or 11 states.
Wow. This actually is giving me an understanding I never had before about Malaysia.
Yeah.
And
Hence the
I also,
mask, right?
that's what I was mentioning earlier, that it's a shame that people have to hide their identities just to say that we're with the Quran.
Yes.
That's mind-boggling, that you go to any religion and you tell them, I will only follow the primary source material of the religion. No, you have to follow all the other things that we've invented.
Yeah, that's insane. And this whole journey, right, of this, I'm sorry to use this word lah, but the whole journey, or this whole sort of this, because it's Sunnah wal Jama'ah, right? Sunnis, right? So the issue is, when you become a Muslim under this banner of Sunnism, the Shahada is the main key point from where they start the con as in the duping and the bluffing, right? Where they start the con is actually from the Shahada. Because you go to the officers, you want to be a Muslim, sincerely you want to be Muslim. And then they say that if you want to be Muslim, you say the Shahada, then you are Muslim. But what is the Shahada? It's La ilaha illallah, which is correct. But they add this thing called Muhammad Rasulullah, which is a problem, because you, as the person who wants to be closer to Allah sincerely, you think that this is the Shahada. Right. And then this thing starts to seep into your soul. You think that, I believe in Allah and I believe in the Muhammad. So indirectly, you have to go for classes. And in those classes, they teach you that immediately, and at the beginning, they teach you that you must follow the Quran and the Sunnah. Because you already said La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, therefore you follow the Quran and the Sunnah. So you saw from where it sort of cascades down. Right. This con, it sort of propagates itself.
So then that obviously is going to go into slippery slope.
Yes.
Where you have not just La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, because you said Muhammad Rasulullah, you have to follow what we tell you the Prophet said.
Yes, correct.
And,
it introduces sorry to interrupt you, brother, but it introduces that avenue, that slip road outside from the Quran. It introduces that slip road into a whole other thing. And so I find that I fell for it for a good 15 years of my life. And then after that, there's another story.
So when you were in Baha'i faith,
Mm.
how much was your engagement with the text or with the different? So what do the Baha'is do? And they just take it
Oh,
easy. What's the thing?
no, the Baha'is, right? They have their holy book, which is called the Kitab Al-Aqdas. It has its own laws, the book of laws. And then got the
Okay.
Kitab Ikan. They have like so many. This particular prophet of the Baha'is, right? He's got so many books that half of those books are not even translated. It's in the vault of the Vatican of the Baha'is, which is in Haifa,
Is in Israel?
right? Because this Baha'i faith, the founder of it was pushed here and there, and he was on house arrest in Palestine when Palestine was under the Ottomans.
Wow.
So when he died, his house became he has a tomb there, right? And he has already said that his tomb is the Qiblat. His tomb is the Qiblat. So which actually made me think, how can the person be a Qiblat? If he was the Qiblat, how is he praying to himself? This is back when I was a Sunni Muslim, you know? Like, how is he praying to himself? How is he going to bend to himself? You know, doesn't make sense.
Right. Wow.
So he's there, and people do and Baha'is do pilgrimage to Haifa. So Baha'is actually go to Israel. So now it's under Israel control, right?
Right.
Mm.
Wow, that's mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah.
Like when
And-
you talk to a typical Baha'i, they don't tell you any of this stuff.
Oh,
It's like I'm really glad to be talking to you about this, because if you want to know about any religion, you want to talk to the ex people of that religion, give you the inside scoop.
Right. And just to add a small addition to that, they believe in 19 days in 1 month and 19 months in 1 year.
Oh, so the Bab also came up with this 19 structure, huh?
I'm not sure whether it was him or Hussein Ali who is the successor, right? I'm not sure which one of them, but this calendar was already somehow introduced between them. 19 days in 1 month, so 19 months in 1 year. So every 19 days, the Baha'is in the community, they will gather for a feast called the 19 days feast, NDF. We short form it to NDF. So we will meet, and the purpose of that meeting is to, of course, fellowship, and also to pick who is going to be the committee member. We call them the spiritual assembly. So every community has got something called a spiritual assembly of 9 people. And then these 9 people from every community will go to the national level and pick the 9 people who will take care of the national level, called the National Spiritual Assembly. And the National Spiritual Assembly will pick who will be in Haifa.
So they got the bureaucracy set.
They got the pyramid structure there.
I see. It's like the Freemasons or okay.
Yep. That's their
Very
patron,
interesting.
probably.
So with the Baha'i system again, you had the Baha'u'llah, and then you said Hussein was the next in command.
Hussein Ali is the Baha'u'llah. Hussein Ali is the Baha'u'llah. Then the Bab is Mirza Ali Muhammad is the Bab.
I see.
Many problems with this religion. I can talk for a few minutes on it.
Yeah,
But
please.
one of it is the Bab who came first. He told his disciples to, or rather he wrote in a treatise, right, saying that do not beat the children, because you might be beating the one who will make himself manifest. That means the one who will make himself because the Bab is actually means door in Arabic, right? So he's actually supposed to be the door to the Mahdi. But for some reason or other, he declared he's the door to the Mahdi. Then after 1 or 2 years, he declared himself as the Mahdi himself. And then later he's declared himself as the Noqta. Noqta means the dot. Point. That means like the point, meaning he is God. He went from the gate to the person. Now he's above that person. Now he's the Noqta. He's the God. And then he says that, and then when he was the Bab, he said that do not beat the children in schools because one of them might be the one who will make manifest. That means the one who will become the Mahdi. But after this Bab died, the one who said the Baha'u'llah is actually 2 years older than him, which doesn't make any sense because he as the Bab, as the gate, thinks that the one who will come after him is younger than him, but the Baha'u'llah that came after him is 2 years older than him. You know?
Wow.
That doesn't make any sense.
A lot of times, what is the appeal of the Baha'i then? How do they appeal to the general public?
I think it's more about freedom. It's more about freedom, how much freedom the religion gives you. You know? That nothing is actually like fard. If you belong to a church or if you belong to something, right? There's always like you have to do this, you have to do that. But in the Baha'i faith, there's no have to. There's no have to. You just do what you can, what you think you can do, and they don't force you. So that's one of the appeals of it.
I see. Well, the DQuestion, I have a question about debates. There are some Baha'is in the local community where I live. And if I bring them on for a debate or a discussion that may be controversial, because you bring up some very interesting points that they may not be on board with. They may push back on that. Would you be willing to do a debate with them?
Actually, I'm not a very debating person.
Interesting.
I'm not really a debating person, but I don't mind listening to them. Probably we can have a discussion, because I'm just afraid when we win a debate, right? Nobody is going to. But if we just discuss things out, probably they'll see the light. Hopefully,
Absolutely.
inshallah.
The point of debate, because Allah mentions the debate in the Quran also. He says to argue with them in the best of way, and Allah will inform them who was rightly guided and who was in the wrong path. But the point of the debate is really to allow ourselves to be challenged. That's the way I look at it. So I could say anything, but then am I going to allow my points or my positions to be challenged by anybody? And oftentimes people who say that they don't want to debate at all, what they're saying is, no, I don't want to be challenged. I'll say what I want to say, and that's that. So that's the point of view that I'm looking at, because I think it'll make for a very interesting discussion. Where
What has happened to me was when I realized that the Baha'is, right, they say that they believe in the Quran, right, but none of them have actually ever read the Quran, and I know this for a fact. They always say the words are beautiful, but they have never read the Quran. And if you were to quote the Quran, right, because in their view, the Quran is something they believe in, but it's already abrogated. So there's no point talking to them about the Quran. You know what I'm saying? They are looking at it as a cancelled revelation. It's cancelled. So it's a bit hard to talk to them, because it's not that I'm afraid to discuss this, because I've already debated this with my community. So coming from that background, right, I realized that they are a bit hard-headed, and one of the reasons may be because they dislike Sunni Islam. I can give you that. I can grant you that, because in Malaysia there is a problem, right? As I said before, Malays are Muslims. So if you want to be Muslim, you are in everybody's mind is you're joining the Malays. Is that you're not becoming a Muslim, the definition of Muslim which Allah has elevated. You're joining this Malay people, and the Malay people, right? How to say, there is infighting between the races. I hate to say this because Malaysia, we're so harmonious, right? But internally, brothers and sisters, right, they have this animosity between each other, right? So it's like they are like maybe the Baha'is, right? Because they come from a non-Muslim, Chinese, Indian, Sarawakian, all this. So they don't want to join up with the Malays, because that's what it means to be Muslim in Malaysia. But if we can take that away and tell them what Muslim really means, then probably yes. And on the international level, I think the debate will be good.
Right. So I'd like to invite all the people who are high faith of the background. I'd like to invite you to this platform, alhaq.com podcast. Please send us a message, and send us a message at this WhatsApp number, and we'll get you connected, and we'll get you on board with the show. Would like to hear what you have to say and what your position is on this point. Moving on to the next point is that one of my favorite characters in the DC universe is DQuestion. No. So he's called The Question in the series. What was the name of that series, Abdullah? Justice League Unlimited. It was one of my favorite shows.
It's really good. It surprisingly holds up really well, even though it was made almost 20 years ago.
Yes,
it's true. And they talk about a lot, especially DQuestion. One time he was asked, so do you believe they're just conspiracies? And he says, conspiracy, singular.
Yeah.
But he's one of my favorite characters, because he really thinks about things very deeply, and he tries to dig into things. But so from that point of view, I see that there's a lot of, I would say, the single conspiracy. I don't even want to say a lot of. There is that single conspiracy. It's like the mother conspiracy of all conspiracies. And I do see that in every major systems in the world, from religion to health to education to finance, virtually every system has been co-opted. And when you look into it a little more deeply, you see the connections between one system and the other. How is religion connected to finance? How is finance connected to health? If you look at the history of Rockefeller medicine, where he was also an oil tycoon and he wanted to promote petrochemicals, and what part he played in the Monster from Jekyll Island, let's say, about the financial systems that they erected. So they are all interconnected at some point. So I really have a lot of setup. That was my favorite character. What was your view about DQuestion in that Justice League?
Well, I noticed that his level of investigation, right, was better than the Batman.
Nice.
So if there was something that I would embody, I think that character sort of embodies that. Because I personally, right, I was a private investigator for a few years in my life. So understand how investigation works, how the police run their investigation, and then what are the evidence that you gather, and then how this thing goes to court. And I'm also involved in courts and how they look at evidence, what is hearsay and all this. And then eventually all this leads to being, for me, coming to the Quran alone methodology of thinking. And so that's how I sort of said that if I had to pick a persona, it has to be the question, basically.
You also were working on certain constitutional preambles and constitutional points, and I can see the real interest in you for wanting to form some sort of a foundation for an Islamic society. And you always have to walk that tightrope between one extreme and the other, where one side is complete chaos, do whatever you want, and then the other side is rigidity and you're providing order, but you're also providing a level of rigidity that's not necessarily aligned with the Quran.
Yes.
What's your
correct.
views on that?
It's a dangerous. It's on a tightrope. This thing is like you could fall on both sides of the extreme. So if you're not careful, we just might become another Sunni Islam. So it's really important that we get it. And if we get it, the next generation may not get it, and they may fall back into the same traps as what has happened in the past 1400 years.
Right.
So it's dangerous. That's the reason why this constitution, right, it has to be loose. It cannot be tight. Otherwise, it'll fall into the same trap.
So how can we avoid that? Just being loose has the risk of going the other extreme. One is that people will just say, well, you can do anything you want. And then the other risk is that someone who's more rigid, more disciplined, more organized will form a greater force and overrun the loose alliance. So both of those risks exist. How do you mitigate against that?
I think, unfortunately, I have to borrow from what I know about the Bahay faith, right? So their idea was to have courts. Every nation have their own Bahay court. In that sense, they have a sense of establishing justice, but that has never come to fruition for them. But for us as believers of the Quran, we can actually do this. So that should be the main foundation of the society, is apart from the Quran being properly translated and freed from the hands of the sectarians, right? We have to have a proper translation of the Quran, and we should establish courts in every place that there are Muslims. That we should establish courts first. Otherwise, nothing will be held together. As long as the rule of law is not upheld, then no one will invest their faith into it.
So do you mean something like perhaps a panel or arbitration council, something like that, where you can take your problems to them?
Yes,
that's interesting, because in Haq.com we had discussed that from a foundational level without understanding anything about the Baha'i.
Yes, correct. I think Islam and the Quran already has this fundamental set, and the Baha'i is also sort of borrowed from the Quran, actually.
Of course. You also running the Quranic Quran,
which actually means that today's Kini means today's current, contemporary. So Quran Kini is the contemporary Quran of the. It's a Malay term, right? So QuranKini.com.
I just put that up on the screen.
Thank you, brother.
Right. No problem. So where are you hosting this from?
So this thing is actually what you call it. It cannot be because I'm running all this from in my situation. I live in Malaysia,
Right.
and there is backlash from the Sunnah wal Jama'ah and all that. So to prevent all this, I've made it traceable. This domain is untraceable. You won't be able to, even if you use all your unless you're going to put a knife to someone's throat, you will not be able to find out this who's hosting
Right.
this. Yeah.
Good. So you also mentioned that all of these different non-federal kings are their own Amir al-Mu'mineen, right?
Yes, correct.
So how do they report to the actual big king?
Oh, they don't. They run their own kingdom, and all the kings have a meeting in every 2 years or 3 years to prep themselves to. They can decide who's going to be the next in line. But otherwise, if they got nothing to talk about being the ultimate supreme leader or Agong, then basically they run their own ship how they see fit.
So they don't even find any problems with the fact that there are hadith against kingship.
You should share that, brother. But
Okay.
but whether there is or not, the system is already in place, and then those hadiths will be sort of pressed.
They'll mysteriously become dhaif hadith, weak hadith.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So in this regard, I'd like to bring in our next guest. If you could stay here, brother. And Abdullah, before I bring in the next guest, do you have any questions or do you have any points you want to discuss with DQuestion?
Not this moment, no.
So I'd like to bring in Mufti Vit. Again, another brother who's concerned for his safety. So I respect that. So Brother Mufti, I'm going to bring you in.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
Brother. So first thing I want to ask is about the image that you've used, about the kuffar on the forehead, one eye, the Dajjal, all that stuff. What's with that?
I just use this. It's just a bit of a mockery for the hadiths that they use. So I just took an image from there. I just put the hadith into AI, and that's what the AI basically created for me. So that's why I use it.
What's with the hat backwards?
Oh, it's just to give it someone, amongst the modern twist, basically.
Your audio is breaking up a little bit.
That's all it is.
Are you in a strong network area?
I'm not. Just give me a few. You know what is it? My network is a bit
go ahead.
rubbish here at the moment.
Yeah.
Just 1 second. Sorry.
I'm going to look up that hadith. Abdullah, can you look up that hadith about after me, there will be 30 years of Khulafa Rashideen. Use some AI or whatever to look it up. And then after that, there will be kings. So that's the hadith. And Khulafa Rashideen means rightly guided successors. So there's a hadith like that. It's a very famous hadith.
There will be what?
Kings, mulkiyat. So tell us a little bit more about the Quran Kini, brother.
Oh, the Quran Kini, right? Is basically because the Malay translation of the Quran, right? If you have read any Malay translation of the Quran, it's very hard to understand anything. They never give you a straight translation. There is a sentence, and then there's so many brackets, which is supposed to be the translator's notes. So in the end, right, when you try to read this, right, it doesn't make any sense. I know the translator is trying to do a good job in making everything concise into one line or a couple of lines of translation, but it's so poorly constructed, right? That doesn't. So what has happened, since everything does not make sense, the Malay people, right, they have given up on reading the Quran altogether.
I see.
When I meet Malays, the Malays brothers and sisters, right, and I tell them to go to the Quran, and the first thing they say is, we cannot understand the Quran. Which is like, to me, I just can't brain this in. Why you cannot understand this Quran? You just read and you should understand, right? Because we are English medium. So English medium is easy for us to understand. But in the Malay translations, and many of the Malay translations is really horrible.
I see. So as far as having discussions and things like that on the Quran, it doesn't happen at all?
Of course, I'm quite active on Threads. Meta has an alternate social media platform called Threads, Threads, right?
Okay.
So I'm quite active there. And what I do is I actually call people to the Quran, and then I link them to the Quran Kini. So when you do that, right, you can see that those who have basically drank the golden calf, right, those who have indoctrinated the sectarian Kool-Aid, right, they are like, and then how do you do salat? How do you pray 5 times a day? That nonsensical standard thing comes in. What I do is, because I'm trying to, in sales, right, you say no, I say next, right? So like, I don't need all these things because I'm trying to promote the Quran's view. If you have a problem, I'll just cut it off. I'll cut off all the problems so that I can get this message to the right people. So that's how I do it now. Because otherwise you cannot build a community if you start fighting with these people. It's difficult to build a community.
Right. But that's where I was saying at the beginning of the show, brothers, that alhaq.com is created with that intention, that we want to help everyone around the world who are coming towards the Quran and want to build a community. We should all be working together. So we have safe spaces within the server, in the Discord server. We have our own website. If somebody wants to come after us or whatever, let them try. And I think we need more people like that, especially in the Western world, where they value freedoms. There is a point that I had shared in the Discord server recently, and this is coming from a hadith. This hadith is mentioned in Sahih al-Muslim, and I don't typically refer to hadith a whole lot. But basically, this hadith is in Sahih al-Muslim, which the Prophet is supposedly saying that in the last days, the Romans would be the most. So I guess the Romans at their time were the Byzantines, right? Or we can even roughly say the white people, the Europeans. So apparently one person is talking to another person, and his name is Amr Mustawrid Qureshi. So it's a little bit of a tongue twister for me. So anyway, he says that I heard Allah's messenger saying that the last hour would come when the Romans would be from a majority of the people, right? So let me just correct myself. Somebody was saying that. Mustadir al-Qureshi reported that, right? And then Amr said to him, see, what are you saying? He's shocked about that. And he said, I say what I heard from Allah's messenger. And then thereupon he said, if you say that, it is a fact, for they have 4 qualities. They have the patience to undergo a trial and immediately restore themselves to sanity after the trouble and attack again after the fight. So there are 2 things mentioned here, that they're persistent. They don't just give up, right? And then they said they have the quality of being good to destitute and the orphans, to the weak and the filthy, right? And the good quality in them is that they put up a resistance against the oppression of kings. So this point is being mentioned. I don't necessarily have to believe in the hadith corpus, but this point is being mentioned a very long time ago, at least. Even if we put it a few hundred years after the Prophet Muhammad, that's still almost 1,000 years ago. It's someone observing these qualities about the Romans, right? About the Byzantines of their time. And the similar fact is also true today. So the Western world, that is something that I do appreciate, that they value freedom, and they don't just roll over for tyrant kings. There will come a breaking point where they will revolt. The American Revolution is a famous example. I would say the Indian and other colonies that the British used to own or hold, their revolutions are different. Their revolutions are post-World War II. British was already broken. They were having a hard time sustaining their empire.
Yes, correct.
So at that point, somebody believes that Mahatma Gandhi marching and all these guys in Salt March and all that, that's what really got the British scared out of their wits. I don't see it that way. If anything, Germany would be the biggest contributor to the freedoms of many of the ex-colonialist countries. So in any case, that is something that I do appreciate about the Western world, is that they value freedom. And in that regard, building a community. So when we're talking about the Quran loan space, what are your impressions on that, on the freedom aspect of it?
I think the Quran alone space, right? Because it's a bit fragmented at this point, to be frank and to be truthful, right? It's a bit fragmented. We were ever united. I do not think that the Western powers would ever leave us alone, because they don't like anything that is a threat to the government. And the Quran actually, it doesn't teach, very peaceful at its core, but it does not to the delusion that the government is putting on everybody. You can imagine the amount of freedom that the Quran gives to a person, right? It's like this government likes you to believe what they say. Quran is saying that don't believe the delusions that the people in power put on you. So it's totally say opposite. Don't ever we were ever united, the power will be too much for them. They will not like it. They will bring too much change to their government, I think.
Do you remember this could also be just a big old situation where, this guy thought that O'Brien was going to be the guy who's going to, means freedom, and it turned out to be part of the state. So this could very well be that situation where, I'm about to say is that about Uber. It was a time where the taxi companies and the whole taxi driving process in the United States, it was insane. Like you have to spend, $1 million to buy a medallion in order for you to drive a taxi cab. It's insane, Unfortunately, what was happening, and in addition to that, they also were saying that you need to have a heckler to drive the taxi. You have to paint your taxi yellow and whatever color of that company. And you also had to have a computer dispatch. You have to pay a dispatch fee every day, kinds of jumping through hoops. And taxi drivers still made a lot of money. So they were, be driving like 12, 14 hours a day and making all that extra money, They were mostly a cash business back in those days. And so in any case, what ended up happening is that when the Uber app came out, in one region, and it was very successful. People were very interested in loading this app on your phone. And the app knows where you are, where the taxi drivers are going to be, and all that. You know how it works. So people were excited about that. So they launched it nationwide and globally. And they had a lot of pushback. The system didn't like that because that medallion fee is going to the state, to the county, wherever you are.
There we go.
So it was an expensive medallion fee, but then the state wasn't. State is not the one that were taking the millions of dollars. State were just charging, let's say, 25,000 or something like that. But then when the medallion owner sold it, he would sell it for more. The next guy wants to buy it. He wants to sell it for you.
That's a middleman. That's a middleman.
Right. Who pays ultimately is the customer.
Yes.
In the middle are all making money.
Yes.
All taking their cut. But really, ultimately, the customer pays. So eventually, when they introduced this Uber app, where you just have a car, you just get in the car, you start driving, as a driver, and then boom, you're done. You don't need to spend you don't have to brand new car and all this other stuff.
Freedom, right, brother? The freedom, bringing back to the fundamentals. You pay for you do a transaction, you pay some money, you get some service. That's it.
That's the bottom line.
Yes.
So they introduced all of these bureaucracies, all of these, in order to say, this for you, for your safety, for your benefit. And then, so when Uber became popular, they started to malign like the app and the drivers, saying that, got raped somewhere and that was because of Uber and they're liable for this and that. They had pretty reached the critical mass where they had more money coming in that they can afford lawyers and stuff like that, And Canada, I think it was Ottawa, some of these places, they started to illegalize Uber.
Okay.
So Uber released a statement saying that keep driving, we'll pay for your legal fees. So they got to that point, the whole thing could just be, the O'Brien situation where Uber is really part of the system also. Allahu Alam, But I find that as an interesting case study of how, institutional rot was set in place and how a simple application completely demolished that whole thing, Same thing with eBay. eBay comes in, it revolutionizes how people buy and sell their personal items. Amazon in, and then it gives a platform for every Tom, Dick, and Harry to come and sell their stuff. So like a lot of examples that we can fall back on to see how an institutional, set into place and how, against it. So how the smaller systems rebelled against it and they were successful. But there is always the possibility that they weren't really smaller systems. They were really a global system to replace a local corrupt system.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yes.
putting on the cap, that's it's a possibility. So I'm not saying it's not, but I think there is a model from that where we can learn something. And fly under the radar. Imran Hussein talks a lot about the micro market to set up something locally, all the world. It's too small. It flies under their radar. They're not even interested in something like that. And then eventually they all have like that they can form together, and then they can launch. Kind of did. What do you think about that?
Too small at this moment, and Imran Hussein talks about is the dinar and the dirham.
Right.
If you're familiar with those
Right.
are actually
Gold
the
and the
silver
silver.
coins. Yes, correct. And we actually have that in Malaysia because Imran Hussein, he made a real impact to the governor of the Central Bank of Malaysia.
Interesting.
And yeah, and he made an impact with the Islamic State in Kelantan, right? So the Islamic State in Kelantan actually has a subsidiary company called Kelantan Gold Trade. And this Kelantan Gold Trade, being of the minister's, Kelantan minister's office, it pays all the government staff, right? About 10% of their salary in gold and silver. So once gold and silver circulates, then it can be used as currency. That's the whole idea, So with gold and silver in circulation, many people don't really use it as currency. There is no education or no like the currency, the fiat system, right? Is It's all been pushed, right? So we need like another indoctrination or not say indoctrination, like for people, right, to learn to use their silver for transaction. The only problem is all gold and silver transactions are not part of the fiat, so it's very hard for the government to do.
Right.
Because the government want to track you, to tax you, and they can't do that if you are using this currency, this gold
Right.
and silver thing. Gold and silver thing is another thing that the Quran actually promotes. That Imam Hussein was saying is, but the problem with Imam Hussein is he, sorry to say this, because he sort of some truth with some of his own agenda. So you have to filter out what he's saying, which part is the truth and which part is his interpretation.
Right.
Take the truth and only take the good things.
Right. He has a very strong background in finance, so a lot of what he's saying is not just from the Quran. He's also talking about like a lot of his own interpretations. But when he takes his interpretations and adds the color of religion to it, that becomes an issue. But I what you're saying. One of the real examples that I've come across for the concept of his micro market, and I'd like to just take maybe a couple of minutes to talk about that and bring in Mufti Vic right after. So one of the concrete examples that I've seen or heard of in my life is I was talking to a Somali brother on one of my long drives with another brother in Seattle. And in Seattle, they have this company again called East Side for Hire, where they created their own little network of Somalis. And they created alternative, that they just can't say taxi, but they put it as East Side for Hire, and they promoted their own cards. This is pre-Uber, We're like the pre-Uber. Those brothers, he told me that his father and his uncles, they used to own a farm back in Somalia. This was that the Italians were in power at that time. So they were like colonialists were in power. So his uncles owned a farm, and instead of paying the workers in the Italian lira, they would issue coupons, like for a dozen eggs or some rice or this many pounds of whatever. So the Italian currency would suffer devaluation from time to time. So these people preferred to get the coupons. So they just kept on getting paid in coupons, and then they started trading the coupons like currency. And this wasn't anything fancy. It's just guy with a and a farm. So they started trading the coupons until the Italian authorities got to know about it. So they sent inquire about that, and these people didn't want to lose the value of what they had. So they said, we don't know what you're talking about. Then they got caught. They sent spies. They found out this what's going on. They burnt the brother's farm, shop, and the printer.
Oh.
So now they got no way of issuing anything. A tangential story that his father swore, "I'm gonna kill an Italian every night," and
Okay.
he like lay in of them and hit him in the head with a brick and stuff like that. So they initially thought it was a gang of people. It was just his father, and then eventually, finally caught him. He used to run from village to village, and the people there protected him. And eventually, when they actually him, Somalia became independent. And then, so he said, it became like a hero instead of criminal they were going to hang. So that's like a example that I've come across where the micro market idea has, is feasible for us to create a community like that. Having a software background, I've also designed software that we can have like an app which will tell you that, let's say you want to buy a bicycle, then you can either pay this many dollars for it, or you can pay for it with real real coin can be minted by any gold dealer, any jewelry shop. Tell them we're going to send you so many customers, and the numismatics of the coin, we can design it. We can say this value is 1 gram, 2 grams, 10 grams, whatever. We decide on the denominations, and then on gold and silver, and then have people start using these coins. We can even microchip it, RFID, so you can scan it for authenticity. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do that. But like, for us to even get to that level of planning, I understand we need to build the foundation, and that all goes into the foundational planning. But at the same time, we can't just get into this analysis paralysis. Just keep on planning, and then we never do anything. The dichotomy I see between the Arabs and the Indians. The Indians sit and plan, and the Arabs just go and do. They don't plan. So there's got to be a happy medium, then reach, inshallah.
People who go and do stuff, they have the petrodollar with them, so they can just do stuff.
They have the money to do it.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about even your average person. That's another interesting point. The Western world, you see people from everywhere. You see Arabs and Indonesians and Malaysians and India and Pakistan. Pakistan is bordering Uzbekistan and India and China, Iran. Your average Pakistani hasn't met any of these people in his life. They're all right next to each other. You don't even met each other. That's crazy. But the same Pakistani comes to the US, he meets a Hindu, he meets a Uzbek, he meets, Japanese. Everybody's here, doing something right. Some of the things that they're doing right, Allah is blessing them. Diversity here is not even available in our countries. So what did they do to us? It's kind of itself. It's like its own world. There's like 1.5 billion people, the most populated country. We've outpaced China by now. That was a few years back. We outpaced China. So India is the most populated country in the world now. And there are so many cultures, languages, costumes, and food and cuisine. You can say it's a world in itself. So that kind of a internal diversity exists. Even that is a challenge. But you don't find many Africans in India. You don't find many Koreans, or you're an odd tourist here and there, but that's it. Here you have like little, you have whole communities. UK, you got like Indians and Pakistanis and Bangladeshis and Hindus, all kinds of people. Speaking of that, I'd like to bring in Mufti Wick. Brother Mufti, can you unmute yourself?
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Sorry about that.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I had a bit of a bad reception there. How are we doing, brothers?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
So I was just mentioning UK, and you live in UK, I understand.
Yeah, I live in the UK, yeah.
Can you tell us about your background?
My mum was in a Sunni household, born and bred in the UK myself. My parents come over from Azad, Kashmir. Background was Sunni, up at the age of, well, I'm 36 now, so 33 years I was a Sunni. When I hit 30, questioning stuff. I started questioning the Imams, because I was reading the Quran in the Sunni translation. And it just didn't, what was happening in the mosques and what the Quran was saying was totally two different things. So I would question the scholars, and they shut me up. So I carry on doing, the daily prayers, reading the
Right.
hadiths, reading the biography of the Prophet. I'm one of them guys saying to people, get mosque, because they said you all has to read in congregation. So I was doing that. I did that in 2020, 21, 22. But then by end of 23, I had read of the Quran and it become a lot more clearer. I started questioning more, and I kind of questioned, because every time I would ask a scholar, he'd bring up another hadith or anything like that, and then a point where, like, am I going crazy or is the world crazy? So I literally, it was straight after Fajr, I had a conversation with the Imam, and I'm 3 questions, and then he'd just bring a different hadith, or this hadith, and I was like, that does not make sense to me. So I went home and I just picked the Quran up, and I was like, I spoke out to God. I go, God, am I going crazy or are the people going crazy around me? And I go, show me something, like, I'm on the wrong path or whatever. And I literally opened the Quran, and it opened to chapter 68, and I'm sure it was verse 37, 38, where it says, do they uphold another book that whatever they wish comes true, kind of thing. And when that hit me, and I was like, wow. And then from that moment, I was focusing more on the Quran, and I kind of go off everything that I knew. It was kind of scary, because it was like, in my life I've known this, like 5 Hajj, Ramadan, this and this is that, and we've been taught. But then when I was reading the Quran, follow what is being revealed, follow what God has revealed. But they said, no, we'd rather follow our forefathers, even if they weren't guided. And then, had to go through. So the first pillar of Islam was the Shahada. So I went, looked through the Quran, like, where is this? If there's something so important, where is it? But I found verses like, when you say La ilaha illallah, they turn arrogant. Chapter verse 12, when God is mentioned alone, they disbelieve. When others are mentioned, they believe. And, and then that's how I realized, what, the Shahada is not here. Then I started searching online. The person I come across was like Rashad Khalifa's work. I looked into his work for a few months, but then I realized he's removed 2 verses, and he still does the 5 daily prayers, which I cannot see in the Quran. So I come away from that. Then like Egypt's work, I looked into his, and then I thought, you know what, I'll just do my own research from the Quran using classical Arabic lexicons, and got my own understanding of what Salah is. 100% with them, but journey I'm learning, and like God said, don't uphold anything that you have no knowledge of. So submits to God. I don't understand everything, but what I have, to what's allowed me to understand. So basically, that's where I've been. So I can say I've been Quran alone Muslim for 2 years.
So DQuestion, how long ago did you come towards the Quran loan space?
2024. So it's been like 2 years, 3 years, probably.
Interesting. So everybody in this chat now, in this conversation, all came towards the Quran loan space around the same time. I wonder if it's coincidental. We're vastly different backgrounds. UK, Malaysia, United States, and there are lots of people that I've met, and it's been around the same timeline. I wonder if there is some common thread in all that.
I think it was the COVID in it, and the truth realized, they had time to sit with the book and read it, and they realized that, wow, that we've been fooled by many people, even our own family.
So Allah plans, they Allah plans. Wallahu khair al-makirin.
Like God says in it, He doesn't heed of a nation until there's a warner gone to him. And if we look at what's happening around the world, yes, we're supposed to stop the oppressors, but then we also see the other side where God says He allows these sects, these bring violence among themselves, and this is what's happening. The Zionists are killing the Christians are killing the Muslims, the Sunnis are killing the Shias. Just seeing what's playing out. This is God's system, and it's in cycle up until the day of judgment. God put on the earth. He sent messengers and prophets to remind them, La ilaha illallah, created these idols. And this is the same pattern. It's going to carry on playing up until the day of judgment. And we're at that stage where now we're trying to connect with people to create a society.
I like the brother changed from Christians killing the Muslims to Christians killing the Sunnis, which is very, very good, important distinction that we Muslims have to actually make. This is very good, very important, that one.
Why is it important? What difference does it make if they're killing the Sunnis or the Shia?
No, because the word right is has by
That's right.
the Sunnis, the Shias, they have hijacked this word Muslim to, so mainstream Sunnis are using the word Muslim. So everybody thinks to be a Muslim is to be a Sunni, you know. So can you imagine that the hijack that they have done? So to restore this, like I said, we have to restore the Quran from the crutches, the Sunnis and the sectarians. So we have to do the same thing for the Muslim also. Name also is a name by God Himself, to the one who submits to God. So it's a very unique name that nobody should take proprietary name, especially the Sunnis. So like when we right, when we refer to ourselves as Muslim, we are not. Some people call us like Quranis or, you know, but Quranis, you know, we are but in their eyes we look like Quranis, but actually we are not Quranis. We are Muslims. The
Right.
Prophet was a Muslim. The Prophet followed the Quran. We follow the Quran. You know, so distinction, when we must make a very clear and conscious distinction between a Muslim and a Sunni, because a Sunni, according to the Quranic language, right, any sect that has broken away from the revelation alone is considered as mushrik. So it's very important that we must make that distinction early on. So if a person is a Muslim, okay, Alhamdulillah. But the moment he starts following another thing, some out of revelation, that is already a Sunni or a Shia. That is not a Muslim according to the Quran.
It's a very good point. What do you think about that, Mufti?
100%, I agree. This is why, from my understanding, Islam has always been here. It's God's system, and then your Buddhas, your Sikhs, your Hindus, your Christians, your Jews. All these are man-made religions because they all worship either an ideology, whether it's a stone building, whether it's a wall, whether it's a statue. They all do it. Even if you look into Hinduism first was monotheism, but because they realized that we could make a business out of it, they started creating these, different. Same thing with, Sunni is a business they sell. When they say,
no, I was just towards what you just now said, that we read in some of these hadith and seerah that during the time of the Prophet they used to use the Kaaba as a they house all these idols, and they used to charge people to come and pay their homage to their right, and they're still doing that today.
Yeah, this is the thing. What it's like with me. Like I live in the UK now, and the Islamophobia is on the rise. Now, what is the on the rise around the world? Because these people are carrying the devil's books. Now, people get upset. Oh, they're not. They are, because chapter 6, verse 112. I'm just paraphrasing. It says, "For every prophet, there's an enemy in devil, in jinn, and mankind form, who say fancy speech. If God had willed, they wouldn't have done it. But this is for the people who have, who don't the hereafter. It's for them." And the Sunnis don't believe in the hereafter that God's described, because they believe that Muhammad's going to save them. They went to a God. Where yes, God says intercession is whoever He allows it, but He's not said He's going to give it to Muhammad. But these people believe it. Then also chapter 22, verse 52 and 53. Not we have sent before you any messenger or prophet that the devil has intervened with his wishes, but Allah makes clear His revelations. And what the devil casts is a test for those who have a disease and a doubt in their heart. And these are the Sunnis. 1 second, sorry.
Brother Mufti is very, very, on this.
No, because it's an issue, because they can't look. When you look around, you go on any site, what do Christians or anyone say, especially in the UK? Oh, your prophet's a paedophile. And then you have these Sunnis trying to justify it.
Yeah.
No, the Quran has given us a foundation, the one who's had a period, and then she has to be mentally mature. Will she be able to, husband, child, can she run a household? We have to look at this. That's it. But these people are trying to justify, no, in the country it was this, in this country, no. But they've had the Quran since 1400 years, so the Quran has been the criterion. But yet you're trying to justify it. Then you have these ridiculous books, that's the prophet, he was, meant to have sexual intercourse with these women when they took him captive, and stoning to death. So it's like I said, if we had to run a society, would we want the Quran or would we want these hadiths? Because the Quran gives human rights for everyone. For example, so you go on to ChatGPT and put into ChatGPT, which countries run according to the Quranic law? The top 4 countries come is Denmark, Norway, New Zealand, and Sweden. Right? So them countries. No, And then you go, there's a list, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, all these come further because they Quran. So even, for example, the UK, you look at the United Kingdom, you've got a welfare system, you've got a government, you have free healthcare, you have free education. It's a system that they've created. Now, where's this system come from? It's actually come from Islam itself, which is God's system. But yes, there's corruption in there. There's people unfair. These countries run more closer to Islam than any so-called Muslim country. And the reality is, it's good that people are waking up and doing this sort of stuff. You can check it for yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that right now. Which are the top 4 countries that run
Quranic law,
that follow the Quranic law? All right, let's try to look at it. I'm looking at through Gemini AI. Saudi Arabia, Iran, Pakistan.
No, that Gemini is a Sunni. It's a follow Quranic law.
Okay.
No, bro. You have to. It's
Iran
is whatever that. So if you type the proper prompt, it will give you the proper answer.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take out GPT. Same question. Which are the top 4 follow the Quranic?
No. Just type the world. Which countries align to the Quran more? That's all you need to write.
Align to the Quran more.
Around the world, align with the Quran most. Yeah.
Yep.
Here we go. Justice, Adil Qist, no compulsion. Oh wow, look at that. Norway, New Zealand, Canada. Muslim majority countries with religious frameworks. Example includes Saudi Arabia, Iran, Pakistan. These states explicitly reference Islam in governance. Malaysia, Indonesia, Turkey. Hey man, you're up there in the top 3, which is a lie. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So I have another question though. We can find issues with what happened? There he is. So we can find issues externally. They're doing this, let's say the blame, the Christians are the blame, the Sunnis are the blame, whatever it is, right? Externalizing the blame versus internalizing. Introspection, critical thinking, and being honest with ourselves. I'd like to fact that the Western world, and you also mentioned Norway, Sweden, these guys, just because they don't call themselves Muslims, the fact that they're imbibing a lot of these values, Allah is giving them the success based on that, right? So sometimes we got to think, if we don't have the success, is it because Allah is not providing it, or is there something wrong in ourselves that we must correct? So like, for example, each of us have our egos, and we can fall victim to that. And no matter how good our cause is, no matter how righteous our intentions are, we could still be doing the wrong thing, and it just takes a subtle level of tweaking the ego that it can completely veer us off the course, So all of us, and I've also joined Mufti's what was that called?
Clubhouse.
There you go. So that's the first time I was, made aware of that in Clubhouse. Honestly, I like a lot of the levels of conversation. They weren't really talking like we're talking right now. There was a lot of shouting and all that other stuff. I mean, sometimes you have to, in some platform, and be more patient. I get that. But generally speaking, you don't get to the next point of the conversation when we're all just going to be squabbling between each other, And if we don't have set protocols that we can operate through, we're just going to be, never. So whether it's like, where's Mecca, where's the North Pole, is the South Pole, is the world flat or spherical? We get, mired up into all of the issues, and we ignore the elephant in the big problem, of unity. How do we, despite our differences, So I did a podcast with my father, it's the Imana podcast, and then that my dad is a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, and the guest speaker that's about to come on is a Christian. She's deeply spiritual Christian, and we're all working towards the same cause in promoting natural health. So the truth unifies us, even though we're not the same religion, So how can we all same? Not only this, we're also the same in terms of believing in the clone, but we still can't work together. That's a shame on us, you know. So there shouldn't be, and each all have our own Discord server and stuff like that. What kind of protocols can we work out so that we can combine our forces, you know, and using the same protocol, add more people to it. The current issue is that each one of us wants to be our own king, and we want other people to follow us without warranting it, without having the merits for it, you know. So we're actually battling against the common good. So Allah mentions that in the Quran. Have you seen those who take their own egos, their own selves as lords besides Allah? You know, so their own desires even. The question that I'm posing out to you guys, what do you think is the role of personal egos when it comes to building a community?
Yeah, maybe I can go first.
Sorry, go on, DQuestion.
Yeah, I was one of the I made my own Discord server is to serve a particular niche or requirement that is for the speakers. You know, it's not because we all be doing the same thing, right? So we all have to fill up particular gaps where needed. So in my upbringing and training, the Bahasa Melayu, the Malay language, so it's something that I can serve my community in. That's why I made the server. It's not that it's not the purpose is not them to follow me. The purpose is for them to come to the truth, right? That's the whole purpose. So that I can leave it one day. I can leave it to someone. So I'm planning to institutionalize it actually. So the idea is not to be like a king or anything. The particular niche that needs to be served basically. So that's one of the reasons why I have my server, you know.
Do you see
for the
this
Malay
screen that I'm showing? This is the alhaq.com server. And when I was saying that, I wasn't particularly singling you out. I was just saying that in a general sense. But there's a languages here where we can add Malay and have that space. And we can have other things, Quran research. We can have like the daily salah, and we can add that in Malay, you know, daily salah in Malay. And things that we've spent our resources in building, you can reuse it. You know, there's no reason for us, our forces, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I was talking about. So, but in that regard, I wasn't singling you out at all. I was just saying, generally, you know, all of us, what can we do to kind of create those types of protocols, you know, that foundation where in spite of differences or needs even, that we can work together. Like, let me also show you one thing. If you go to spanish.alhaq.com, spanish.alhaq.com, that website, I'm just going to put this up on the banner. So you can even do es.alhaq.com, HTTPS. That has been managed by this Qasas, you know, so this website right here. It is an offshoot of the alhaq.com major site in Spanish. So this brother is taking all the articles and then he's translating it, and you have a free platform. This alhaq.com platform is for our space. So if you wanted it in Malay, we can create it in Malay. It wouldn't take us very much time, you know. If you want to do one, you can spin it up. We just need the people to be working on it, you know. They have the saying in Ukat mein barakat, you know, you do the haraka, the movement, and there's barakah in it, you know. So that's what I'm talking about. You know, each one of us, we contributing to that.
You see, that's like with me personally, come onto this journey and I come across all these different YouTubers and Discord servers, and everyone's doing their own thing and they're happy with getting followers. And like I've had it, people said, "Oh, why don't you do your YouTube or do this?" I go, "I don't wanna. I wanna get all these." So even like, so you have the free website, you have the guy who's doing the translation for Monitis Group, and then he's created Bakar.1, and now that Bakar.1 is an online institute. It's basically for anyone around the world, and he's setting like up a council like the Shura, you know, and it's for people around. We've also added a point where gathering, so we've added different countries as well. So it's kind of bringing people together, and that's why I spoke to you about it, because I've spoken to other people, and they've not been very, you know, when you send the site, it was like, you know what, I could work with this. We could do a collaboration to work together, but there's not everyone like that. So even with me, like I've had people like, oh, you know, you should open open
Is it Becca.bakka? Sorry,
BA.1.
we just stopped that.
This is what a lot of people are happy with, being a leader instead of actually joining heads together and working together. Like that's why you probably seen come to Clubhouse app. You've got a lot, because I'm trying to get people together. They all follow the Quran alone, but some of them have their own views. So I'm trying to.
Yeah.
So I said, like, look, put Salah to aside, Hajj to aside, put Ramadan to aside, focus on the rest, and we could all come together, because that's working good for humanity.
Right.
These sort of stuff, because it's a private connection. We can see who's connected with God. When you want to do good, regardless, you could be an atheist. Because with me personally, I've spoken to Christians, atheists, Jews that want to do good.
Yeah, I understand that. So when you that, brother, let's say, for example, all of us here, we're sitting together to plan out a course or a class to teach, right? The things that you're going to have to plan out would be faculty management, student management, certification management, syllabus, course curriculum, all that. That's not the conversation you include students into, right? Generally speaking, you don't get a classroom of kids and say, let's sit and plan all these things. So if you have, let's say, and I keep forgetting, brother, what's that server that you mentioned, Clubhouse, right? Yeah. So Clubhouse, or let's say a large Discord server where we're going to have a democratic meeting about what does everybody think. That's not a forum. Have like architects, engineers, and the people who are the adults in the room. We have to bring up issues that could happen, and then negotiate our positions, and then see and work together. We can't just open up the floor and say, hey, everybody just join us, let's have a big old discussion about this.
No, I agree with you there. Sorry, go on.
Go ahead, Mufti.
That's why like we get people, obviously everyone's everywhere. You probably self, you've got people that are one certain person and they're in that group and they think that's it, they're happy with that. But there's more to the Quran. It's a personal level, your personal, and it's a community building as well, and a society. So there's going to be different people, so we have to filter out the people. So there's loads of people and everyone brings a different skill set. So once we could unite, and then we could have it, so like Bakka 1, they join, got like an age restriction, over 30, join the council. So then these people can have that discussion on, having these discussions on everything.
You take it on age restrictions? There are lots of old people that act like immature kids.
I understand. Yeah, but they've get, because a lot of the time the people we've spoken to, the ones that are, especially the ones that have come, the ones that are under 30s, they're a bit everywhere from the people that we've spoken to. They are, they're youthfully. There's no hadith, but then they're not kind of grounded. They're still whereas somebody over 30, they're more mature, and you could have these conversations. Like yourself, you sit in the clubhouse, then people were under 30, so that's why there was too much rowdiness. Normally, there's only a couple of us in there having these discussions, and when it's mature people, you can have this respectful conversation. But when you've got the young ones there, they want to throw their opinion out or thinking, that's what becomes this kind of ruckus kind of thing.
Right. I'd like to say my son over here, Abdullah, has been patiently sitting and listening to us talk. He's an extremely mature person for his age. And when I'm residue Sunnism or sectarianism, that's a phrase that was quoted by our next guest, Armor Wolf. I'd like to add him to the stage so he can join the conversation, with your permission.
No, the more the merrier, isn't it?
Salam, Brother Armor. So, Brother Armor, what do you think about the conversations? Have you been listening in?
Yes, I have been listening in. I like to talk about community more than how I despise sectarians. So I'm all about these kind of conversations.
I would love to see a day when all of us can be maskless and come out, have our own backing. We back each other up, inshallah. And we have a strong enough community that we don't have to worry about those who come after us, inshallah.
Right.
Yes. Can I just say something about this, how we should actually come together, right?
Yeah.
Because my understanding is we must have the Quran as our foundation. So we actually need a proper translation of the Quran, even in English, because to be fair, right, Shoaib's translation isn't the best, because he did a good job translating the Quran, but when we use it in our Quran readings, we find it a bit lacking because we tend to, when we investigate the word, we tend to use another word for it. So it's we need a proper linguistic translation and put all interpretations separate from it. That's number one. We need that. Number two, those people who can speak about this, right, are those people who have read the entire Quran. Because the Quran is a framework. So if you only have read one or two surah, right, you may not have the proper qualification, the proper framework. You've not built the proper framework to actually speak about the Quran. So you have a person who, I think the qualification is one who has have the Quran foundation, read the Quran properly in its full listing, whatever that they come to believe, right, from the Quran alone. That's where the framework comes, because in the Quran alone community there are so many, there's a bit of fragmentation because the Quran actually allows for a different sort of interpretation within its framework, right? There is room for that. There is metaphorical, there is literal, there is room for that. So we should give people room to interpret how they want, as long as it's within the framework of the Quran itself, right? So that's where the outline should be, the loose framework for the community. Let's, for example, if we say the Muslim Alliance, right, or the Believers Alliance, let's say we call that. So let's say people in my server or people in Al-Haq, we all can join into one place because we need a place that it doesn't like it belongs to everybody. You know what I'm saying? Then we can come together there. You know what I'm saying? If you have a house, if I want to come to your house, it's going to be difficult. We have to have a different house where everybody is a shareholder in that house. Then
Masjid al-Haram.
Correct, Masjid al-Haram, the borders. It is the building that borders, that contains, it's a border building that contains all the interpretations for people who have read the entire Quran. So to count the people who have read the entire Quran from beginning to end, right? They're not that many, to be frank. Because everybody built on. So there must be some qualification. There must be a foundation, a qualification, and framework, and a place that all of us can come together. Because we cannot come under somebody else's house. We have our own houses. It's not like our family is going to join under a different house. Unless there is a clubhouse. The clubhouse, it has to be owned by everybody. They have to be shareholders. Then they can come and sit at the table.
Sorry to interrupt you. The best, I've read a lot of translations. The best one that I've read so far is Brother Free Minds, the Monetist translation. That's a translation you should look at.
I think I have looked that up also. The problem is that when we look at all the different translations, right, everybody is in a certain mind space. They're in a certain frame of mind when they do the translation. Yes, and the problem is relying on any translation. The study of the Quran is a dynamic, ongoing process, right? So you can actually have a discussion with people that, let's say, take a word, base it off of 5 different verses, and say this is what that word most probably means, right? And then there could be another 5 different verses that another person bases it on. And then they are all trying to arrive at that consistency. But there is an overarching message in the Quran that can only be accessed by each of us putting our time and effort to do the study ourselves. And that's when you get fully satisfied with what you've achieved. And other people can come in with their views. For example, you mentioned Free Minds. Is that the brother you mentioned? I think he was in the clubhouse also, right? And this brother is very knowledgeable, mashallah, and he has good grasp of Arabic. And
I'll just, he is an Arab. He's been Quran alone probably since 1998.
So he's outranked us all over, maybe in terms of seniority. But all that said, there is a platform for us to have those conversations. And Brother DQuestion mentioned that if you take that discussion to Shoaib's platform, and let's say you call into his show, it's his show. He runs the show, right? And then if you take it to, let's say, MFG's group, or you take it to the 19ers, they're all masters of their own domain. What have they done to ensure fairness and justice? What protocols have they proposed? That's where the lacking is. So whether it's my house or your house, which one of us is allowing everyone else to speak? Which one,
Well-
one of us is saying that here's the protocols that I'm willing to provide the moderators, the arbitrators, the United Nations kind of a council, regardless.
Well, my experience with them two people that you've mentioned, I've been kicked and blocked out of the
Oh, yeah.
Telegram groups because of my sharing my views.
Oh,
And
yeah.
MFG himself has me blocked, which is quite astonishing.
It's
So,
not. He's got me blocked also.
so it's crazy. So I'll give you. So MFG was approached by the people who set up Baka.1, and basically he wanted to become the Khalifa. And they
No
go, look,
way.
no, we want to set up a council where people get to choose the council, and we work off that. But he wanted to be literally be the Khalifa. He wanted to be the Imam, basically. And because of that, he went his separate way. And you
So
know, everyone to
before
do.
any conversations take place, before any debates, before anything, I want to
I
be
mean,
king.
ultimately, leadership is earned, right? We haven't even gotten full experience with each other,
Hmm.
and even done projects to be even talking about that.
Right.
So that stuff is earned. You can't just come and call yourself one. You have to examine how people handle difficult situations and trials, and these things will give a good sign. And a leader of what? Religious ideas or political matters? Like, it
Decision
depends.
maker.
So it's just weird.
No,
That's
it's
true.
not about leaders. It's about people coming together, and you can see when a person's talking sense. For example, I approached Brother Farouk. I had a conversation with him, even though we might have slight different, but he still wants to work because I see the good in him. He invited me to his platform. He's invited me weeks ago, but I was a bit busy. Even last week I had a family emergency, but I still come to show my support. And you won't get this with a lot of people. They don't want to show support, and I've
Right.
seen that with these people. And that's the thing. I'm just look. I'll give you an example. Now, Brother Farouk, there's Brother Free Minds. These brothers want to build a society. They want to see the good. Whereas these other people are just happy with the followers they've got, and they constantly, oh, the Sunnis are this, the sectarians are this, or who's the mushrik of the month this time? Is that what the Quran is teaching us? No, it's not. Do you understand? We need to move from that. Yes, we've understood the hadiths are not part of it. Is that it
Yes.
now? We're going to sit here and constantly target other people. No, we're supposed to grow as a community. Like
Yes,
God
correct.
says, let there be a nation calling to the truth. How are we going to be that nation when we're constantly just targeting each other? I sent MFG a document regarding let's hold the rope of God together, do not be divided. And he turned out why we sent it to me. I'm like,
Right.
brother, it's just a reminder. I don't want to go separate ways. I want people to come together. I've got a brother who's very good in IT world, and he could make programs. And I've asked him to design basically a virtual world where people could meet up there. So he's in the process of programming it and designing it, where there's a website called The Second World, so people could meet online. But I've told him to copy something like that, where it's all those people could come there in a virtual world, and we could have these conversations and stuff. Now we've got this, but it'd be like a virtual world where everyone could come in. It'd be like a courtroom setting or something like that, where we'll have people as moderators and we'll have these conversations and debates. So,
Yeah.
Brother
Brother
Mufti,
Armor.
I don't want to make this about other people in this podcast
Right.
because I want to talk about something efficient. But
Oh, no. Audio
I'm
issues.
not really close with him anymore.
Repeat that again, Armor.
He does
You were
this
cutting
thing
off.
where you'll show him a reminder, a verse reminder, says a friend, and then he'll think you're trying to lecture or teach him. No, I'm not trying to lecture or teach you. This is like, I'm just reminding you. It's actually arrogant. I don't know. Did he do that with you?
yes,
See? It's problematic.
I
It's
just
a
sent a
recurring issue, but it's
Anyone
okay.
who's like,
Right. And we can focus on people who are cooperative
it's not
with
an
each other.
attack against supposed
no, I
people
don't.
at all.
But it's just like I'll give you an example. Like I've spoken to Brother Fruit 2-3 times now, and I could say, you know what, this is a person I'd want on the council because he's respectful, he controls himself, he's intelligent, even with the free. I could say there's a handful of people that I would say, you know what, these are the people I would want as a council, because I've had conversations with them. I wouldn't include myself in it because I'm young. I'm not a person. I'm a Muslim, but I'm not at the level where I could control myself yet. I've only been 2 years on this journey. I've got a lot of learning myself to do. But from having conversations with different people, I could say, you know what, this brother could be what they'd be. I'd put them as a position of saying these are the people that I would want as a council, because you can see how these people are, how they hold themselves, how they have these conversations.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
And that's
Are
the
you-
thing with the sectarians. They will people who hate on sectarians, but when the discussions about community, they make all kinds of excuses. Oh, we'll get killed if we try making a community, or oh, we're decentralized. We don't need a community. They literally says we don't need a community. There's no reason for it.
Right.
And it's like, and I've seen this in TikTok because TikTok has this very secular QA space, and it's annoying. But if you really hate Sunnis that much, once you also want to strive similarly how they do to repel them, if you have a bully and you hate the bully, and he has a six-pack and he knows how to fight, you will also want a six-pack and know how to fight, so then you can repel him, right? So actually, if someone truly hates the sectarians, they will actually put effort into making mosque, into working in business with each other, allying with one another in business, marriage, and spiritual support. Allah says in 971, the mu'mins are allies of one another. And then in 873, Allah says, the disbelievers are allies of one another. If you do not do the same, there will be a great corruption. So it's literally a warning. If you guys are negligent, then there will be a great corruption. And this is for me one of the greatest things about Quran alone. 1746, when you mention your Lord in the Quran alone, they turn away in aversion. Because it's not just that Quran alone is about anti-sectarianism and anti-hadith, but it shows you how to be the best version of yourself and how to make the world a better place. It teaches you a formula. It's literally in front of your face. So, subhanallah.
Can I just add something to that?
Yes, please.
So this, I've realized a few things about the community and also about the phases of the Quran alone methodology. Right?
Question, I can't really hear you.
Really?
I can hear him. I can hear you.
So I have come to realize, right? I've come to realize that there is a phase of anger.
Can you guys hear DQuestion?
Yes, I can hear him.
I think you've switched to your Bluetooth or something. That's why you're unable to hear all of us.
Yeah.
Amar, can you hear us? He can't hear us, I think. Anyway, so I've realized, right, that the QA, the person that has espoused the QA, right, the Quran alone methodology, right, he could be stuck in a phase of just hating the sectarians when he doesn't realize what he actually has to do is study and grow out of that phase into something that's more meaningful, that the Quran wants to metamorph you into. What they're doing is they're just staying in their cocoon. They're not coming out as a butterfly. They're staying in their cocoon. They're just like think that their job as a QA person and as a Muslim is to just hate the sectarians. It's not like that. Hating the sectarians is only one element. And you becoming a better version of yourself is when you study the Quran more, right? Then you will just blossom into understanding what your way is supposed to go higher than this. So yes, there are some people who are just stuck at just hating sectarians, and they'll be there for a long time because number one, they did not deepen themselves in the Quran. So they're just stuck there. They think that is the purpose of being a Quran alone Muslim or a Muslim. So this is something that's a trap. It's also the devil's trap, this phase. If you don't get out of this phase, you will never get out of this phase. So it's like you have to. So one of the fundamentals is reading the Quran from beginning to end. It's a very important thing to do. You have to do that because every surah is actually a masjid, meaning that it's a bunyanan, it's a building. There's so many masjids, and all these masjids makes up the Masjid al-Haram, the whole borderline of all the things. So you must learn the Quran properly. So otherwise you'll be stuck in this frame of this phase of just hating, and if you keep doing that long enough, right, you will stop seeing the whole framework of Islam. I think Amr is like getting into the Chinese New Year, what you call?
He's also respectful of the traffic
I agree with you there, DQuestion. That is bang on. This is what happens with people is they fall into that trap without actually carrying on studying. They realize, yes, it's Quran alone, but then they're stuck there arguing with people constantly. No, we should be building a society. It's like within the UK. I've started to connect with people who have no faith, and they've bought their own farmland. They're going back to basics, growing their own food, educating their children, learning them simple skills, how to without all this materialistic stuff. I've been reaching out with them people as well. So it's people who want to do good. It's not always going to be, it's if we had a Muslim society, we would be allowing everyone to be living there. Whoever wants to do good, whether they have their own faith, that doesn't matter. But the main aim is doing good and building this community that wants good. And that's what it comes down to. So that's why I've had, like, I'm one of them. I'd rather not open different channels. I'd rather get everyone that's already on these platforms come together and work together. Because when we come together, that's when we're going to be able to be strong. If we're calling ourselves and labeling ourselves Quranists or Quran alone or any of this, then you're falling in the same trap as the rest of the people. You're becoming them, forefathers. Like God says, they only become divided when knowledge come to them out of jealousy and rivalry. So we have to understand God's system is people are going to have more knowledge. But when we come together, we're like a 3D puzzle, for example. We're all going to have a different skill set. And when we come together with this book, with the understanding of this book, we will be willing to work with everyone. Because you can't just pick and choose. You have to follow the complete book. There's verses, there's you preach to those while you read the book, don't you reason? So there's all these, and then we're telling people, but then again, we're falling in that same trap by becoming divided.
And along those same lines, I wanted to mention the fact that we should distinguish between hating sectarianism.
You know what? I can only hear Mufti Vec.
All right. So you have to make the distinction between hating sectarianism versus hating sectarians. Yeah. All of us.
Brother Ahmad, they could hear you, but I don't think you could hear them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Tell him to go on the YouTube live and he'll be able to hear all of us.
Yeah. Rather go onto YouTube live then if you can't hear them. We understand. That's what I say. Look, because God says 12:106. Most people who believe in God do not do so without mushrikeen, without associating. So I know there's people. We was lost as well. As you were lost, and I found you and I guided you. So I understand that. So I don't hate the people. I hate the ideology. This is the thing. Like, I know humans, we are sometimes on where we've been brought up or the environment. So it's not the person's fault. But then when you speak to these people and you share the Quran with them the first time, the second time, and then again, they're still behaving that, then walk away from that person. Because God gives us exactly directions on how to speak to these people.
Right.
Chapter 36, verse 70, preach to those who are alive and the word against the disbelievers. Depending on what translation, you're not the disbelievers. Surah Muhammad, verse 31, God says he tests us to bring out our true qualities in character. So there's all this, so everything's a test on how we see it. So yes, at one point when I first become, alone, I was constantly, fights with Sunnis and Shias. But then when I started sitting with the Quran alone, more people, reminding me with verses, and I was through the Quran and acting upon it as well. Because it's stages. When God reveals something to you, you've got to reflect upon it, act upon it. Because if you don't do that, then you're bringing the bad upon yourself. Then you're going to lose that connection with God. So it's a continuous, like there's those who are constant in Salah. This is part of it. Salah keeps you away from immoral and vice. The remembrance of God is greater. So there's all these verses that apply in our life. Once we apply them, then God gives us a bit more. And so for me personally, is like I rather be united with people. And even if we have, like God says, this is what people don't realize is we don't have to be unified. We have to be united. So even we're Muslims, we might have a slight different understanding of Salah or Hajj or Ramadan, but yet again, we're holding tight to what God's given us. We might not agree on the 5% or 10%, but the 90% we do, that's the common ground. In Allah, we submit to God. Now let's work what's good. If you want to stand, bow, you want to dance in your Salah, you want to put one hand up your nose, go do it. That's your private connection with God.
That's right.
But when we're out in the society, we need to be working as one.
Yeah. I just add what the Mufti is saying, right? The framework of us coming together is one of the main topics is, let's say you have a way of doing Salat, okay? I have a way of doing Salat, right? The main problem is what? Not the way we do Salat. The main problem is when somebody says that their way is the only correct way, that their way is the way that was divinely sent down. When they say that is the problem, because that's a lie against Allah.
I agree with you, brother.
Actually, this sujud and whatever, right? As long as it doesn't go against the Quran, it's fine. But to make it's just similar like bid'ah, that is not accepted. It is because it goes against the sunnah, right? So if you want to pray in a particular way, that's not a problem. But to say that this particular way is divinely inspired, that's the problem. As long as you don't say that, like you said, you can even dance around also. As long as it doesn't go against the Quran, it's fine. That's what the framework is supposed to do for us. You can accept everything that's within the framework. As long as there's no one in the framework that lies against Allah, then it's okay.
I agree with you, brother.
Can you hear us now, Armor?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right.
Because
Okay.
is the verse though, I think in chapter 8, verse 35, where it says the mushrik's salat was whistling and clapping. So do still somewhat of the structure. I low-key think the main structure of salat is like humble and a position, so you're focused, not moving. And that still position doesn't mean standing down. And then called reciting the book. Those are like, and then there's a case where Allah says in 239, I think, it says like you're in fear, you can like salat while traveling, like a horse, or while like something. So there is kind of concept.
Right.
So,
but there was a time, brother, that I was riding somewhere in my nephew, and we were having a discussion about the moon landing. I asked him, do you believe we really went to the moon? We landed on the moon. He said, don't you believe it? And that question was that I was asking him, that's the wrong question. The question is, what do you know about it? The question is not what you believe or what somebody else believes. That's all up to each person. But are you informed of the facts? Do you know? Speaking for myself, when I first kind of about that, I thought we have a mere space station that's like around the world. So what's the big deal with the moon? And then the guy that I was talking to, he said, how far the space station is? It's like 200 miles. And then how far is the moon? It's like 1,000,000 miles. And that's when it put the scale in my mind. And I was like, wow, this is how come we don't discuss those things? The facts are hardly ever discussed. That's the problem. So it's not important that you believe about it. Do you believe that actually happened or not? The point is, what do you know about it? What are the facts? How familiar are you with the arguments on both sides? If you spend your time in arguments, then you can have a decent conversations with people who hold a different belief. That's the point. So where they're coming from. Like just that verse from the Quran about the whistling and clapping. DQuestion mentioned the dancing and putting your finger up the nose. So that's what Mufti Vic was mentioning before, right? So does that include whistling and clapping? Does that include, I don't know. But the point is that it's not what each person believes, it's what each person understands about where the other person is coming from. So once we all get to the same page, now we can start others into our spaces wherever they want to fit in. Do you believe it's a ritual? We got people who believe that. Do you believe it's not a physical ritual? We have people who believe that. At the same time, I think it's important not to invade each other's spaces. So if there's a Quran activity going on, someone is translating it, let's say, as prayer. I don't see it as prayer. Or dua is calling out. You can say a supplication or request, but I don't see that as you have to put up your two hands like that and then your head down and you have to do all X, Y, Z. I don't believe that. And if somebody does believe that within our space, do we all over his party? Piss on his parade, they say. So do we do that, or do we just say, okay, this is your space, you conduct it the way you're conducting it, and then when it's my turn, I'll talk about that from my point of view, and I'll also mention that the other people have these views, and fine with that. What do you guys think?
The setting matters. It's always a setting. If the setting is a debate setting, of these discussions.
Debate is not invading each other's space. Debate is meant for that.
Yeah. If it's a setting where we're just talking about community or some charity work, like we don't need to bring it up and invade each other's
right. Yeah, that point where, like, for example, let's say you're saying I'll pray or I go and do this prayer and whatnot. And that's not the time for me to be going, prayer is not there and blah, blah, blah. Not the time for it. Time for it is in a debate platform, but you don't got to keep rubbing your noses into it every time. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with you. That's why I am having conversations with people. Is Salah to the side, leave Hajj to the side, leave Ramadan. Let's work on the rest. Let's have a conversation on the human rights, the laws that God's given us. You even told us that if the people that are not throwing you out your houses and not treating you bad, you could still be friends with them. You could still have a relationship. But then
Yes.
God's also telling you, on the other hand, if your father and brother don't believe in this belief, then you don't make allies with them. So God's given us all these laws, so we've got to put them in place where people know that this is how and what a Muslim is. You still treat like God says, your mother carried you for a certain amount of time, she weaned you. But if your mother and father tell you to associate someone, you disobey them, but you still look after them in this world. Even keep kinship with your brothers and sisters. They might not believe in this, but as a Muslim, my duty is to keep a relationship with them. They might not agree with me, but I'm still going to work a way out where we could be civil and where you're being a Muslim towards them. So God's given us all these. So there's a time and place for everything. So
I would also recommend to everyone that comes on these discussions, right? Keep a notepad next to you, or a document or something. Whenever someone else is talking, you get all these ideas flooding into your mind. Try to note it down. We don't want to miss anything.
I use Obsidian.
Okay. There's ways to note it down because you lose your train of thought. I meant to ask something that I forget. So it's these types of discussions, they unearth gold, in my opinion. A lot of very valuable points to be made. And so each of us, if we make it a practice to keep a notepad or something to jot down our notes, then, example, right now, Abdullah has patiently been listening to us. If I ask him in his input, I'm sure he hasn't noted anything down yet. So he'll just have it all registered in his mind.
I have some thoughts.
Yeah.
I think one thing with this law, like Armor Wolf mentioned, where the idea that there isn't exactly word for word prescribed way to do it, so we can't say this is not how you do Salah. I think that because we are only men and mortals, we can't say this is exactly what Allah says unless He explicitly says so. But there are things that we can rule out. So when it comes to ritualistic Salah, if there's a Quran alone individual who does things ritualistically, I have no issue with it. They can do whatever they want. It's not affecting me. But the reason why I think that's not ideal is because it all comes down to they talk with a Sunni. The Sunni is like, oh, why don't you believe the Hadith? X, Y, Z. Oh, well, then how do you do Salah? Well, I kind of the same way as you do. Okay, well, where is that prescribed in the Quran? It isn't directly. Okay, then checkmate, game over. You're following something other than the Quran. It's over. So you automatically lose. I think that deriving it purely only from what the Quran hints is the safest way to do it, because otherwise you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable corner. Again, it doesn't affect me if other people are doing that. It's more than for their own benefit. For me, I have at least some kind of justification that something might not agree with or even think completely makes sense, but can be like, oh, okay, at least you're still kind of sticking to the Quran, but you're not really. That's at
Actually,
least
you have a very good point. I may just say something. Tells the Prophet to actually follow in the footsteps or the Millah of Ibrahim. In the Millah of Ibrahim, he's a Musliman, he's a Hanifan. And this word Hanifan, right, if you study about the linguistics of this word Hanifan, it actually means non-denominational. That means you don't follow any church, any organized way of doing things. So in a way, you're correct. If someone wanted to follow the organized way of doing something, which is actually being from a different source of in the Quran, right? Then they are not Hanifan. Quran actually points to you have to be non-denominational. Actually, you must strive to be different from whatever has been formulated outside of the Quran. It's to be a conscious effort. So I do agree with you in a sense because the Quran actually supports this idea.
What about, in that case, what about practices within a company or within a group or within a organization that they have policies that help people unite or they help
Did
people?
anyone ask me something?
What was that, Brother Armor?
It's kind of AFK.
No,
Brother,
nobody can hear us.
I can hear you, DQuestion.
So you can't hear me now.
Actually, Omar is speaking, but you can't hear him. Maybe you need to like back, brother. You try to
Yeah.
join back.
There's like weird like messing with the audio.
They don't want you connecting.
Yeah. See,
Let's say
we are so close to the truth that
Yeah.
it warrants interference from them.
That's
It's
right.
indication. Sorry, brother. Go ahead.
I just had a real quick question before I forget, brother. The question is that people, are they Zionist?
They Zionists, because to be honest, right, they are quite peace-loving people, not they.
Omar, say something,
Yeah, can you hear me now?
bro. So weird.
Can't you hear
I'm
him?
gonna have to
Yeah,
open my.
from the laptop. That'll be a lot better. Well, you
Yeah,
have to
so-
tell them to do that.
Join on your laptop. Can you hear me, Ahmed?
Join on your laptop, Armor Wolf. Join on your laptop.
Put it
This
on the
is us.
banner.
This
But
is
it's like
us being.
I'm gonna have to shoot it in a few minutes. But it's like when people asking it, they're asking God guide us to the
Mhm.
straight path.
Yeah.
God describes his straight path to you in chapter 6, verse 151, 152, and 153. And I'll just recite these few verses before I go. So it says, Say, come, let me recite what your Lord has forbidden for you, that you should not set up anything with him, and do good to your parents, and do not terminate your children due to poverty. We provide for you as well as for them, and do not come near immorality, what is public of it and private. And do not kill the life that God has made forbidden, except through justice. That is what he enjoined you, that you may comprehend. And do not come near the money of the orphan, except for what is best until he reaches his independence. And give honestly full measure and weigh equitably. We do not burden a soul except with what it can bear. And if you speak, then be just, even if it's against a relative. And regarding the pledges made to God, you shall observe them. This has enjoined you that you may remember. And this is my path, a straight one. So follow it, and do not follow other paths, lest they divert you from his path. This is what he has enjoined you, so that you may be righteous. And then what is up to 153? Then if you go to 161, God says, My Lord has guided me to a straight path, an upright system, the creed of Abraham, the monotheist. He was not of the polytheist. So
Mm.
a Muslim is that. You know, straight path is them things. And how many people do we know that do this? Whether he's an atheist, he will follow them commands. That's the straight path. So just because he doesn't call himself a Muslim, but his acts are a Muslim, because he's just following them 10 steps. That's it.
Right.
And people make it out that you have to do everything. No. If you follow them, then God's going to judge between us. That's it. Then the first thing is, don't associate anything to God. If we could follow them, that's the straight path. But people ignore it. Stood there, guide us to the straight path, but then, reading the rest to be guided. But I appreciate for allowing me and giving me time, brother Omar. Good to see you, DQuestion. And brother Omar, if you could send me DQuestions, I would like to look at it. And
Absolutely.
you know what? It's good what you're doing, and we can get everybody united and have one platform where everybody's work is there and is visible.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people I speak to, and you know what? God bless you with more, brother Omar. Assalamu alaikum. A pleasure to speak to you all. Peace.
I just wanted to add something, brother.
Yeah.
I'm actively taking notes now. The protocol that the Quran actually tells us, but this is entirely my interpretation, right?
Mhm.
So there's we feel the heat. We become Quran alone Muslims, right? We become Muslims, and we understand that we have to follow the Quran. It's a particular that we go through, which is the phase of anger, phase of like heat, because we just realized that we've been duped. We just realized that we have been conned, and we angry with the establishment, which is the Sunni sectarian or the Shia or whatever it is, right? So Allah tells us that when you come to the phase of Ramadan, and when you see it, Ramadan is like heat. You should do siyam, and siyam means self-restraint. You should actually, I know you're angry, but you have to
Very
restrain
interesting.
yourself. Don't go out and like look at people. Don't do that. Allah actually is teaching us, do siyam. That means siyam is self-restraint. And what you
Wow.
have to do in self-restraint is you have to eat and drink in that night that you are in, that heat that you're in, right? You have to eat and drink. Eat and drink doesn't mean eat and drink. It means imbibe or indoctrinate yourself from this Quran. You have to basically deepen. If you feel angry, use that anger to deepen yourself. That will calm you down. There is a protocol for people to get out of this phase of, that is to basically come back to the Quran. Everything comes back to the Quran, actually.
Right.
So it's just people don't realize it.
So let me ask you a couple of questions, Brother DQuestion, about the position. Let's say you take a more esoteric approach to the understanding of the Quran, right? Where do you draw the lines? Let's say, for example, your children want to say that want to explore some homosexuality, or they want to explore else, that you consider is against your values, let's say, right? Where do you draw the line and say, well, did Allah tell you that to stop me from doing this? Or your wife wants to say they have male friends that she wants to hang out with, right? So is this lewd behavior? Is that the standard? If you're going to have a more esoteric interpretation, couldn't your wife and kids also have that kind of interpretation and then buck your system?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I said, it's an interpretation. So there is some backing from the Quran for that interpretation. Like you go to other verses, those other verses actually define this word. So based on that, the reason why because like I said, the Quran, right, it's like a framework. Actually,
I'm saying I'm giving you that. Let's assume what you're saying is 100% true. How do you deal with this other issue?
If they can prove it from the Quran, if they can prove their stance of doing this thing is okay by the Quran, then it should be okay by me. But we all have our individual don'ts, right? Which is nothing to do with the Quran. We have our own limits. Yes, correct. And we, as part of agreement, we can actually limits on each other as part of a. And like when you get married, it's basically an enterprise. Your partners with someone running a show. You not go rogue because they are part of this agreement. There are certain things that will still you have a say in these kind of things. It's just that our mindset is guided by the Quran. You have a particular extreme view, but the Quran actually allows it. Then you have to adhere to the Quran. Like you have to give some leeway. You cannot be going against the Quran. So if they say like somebody's wife want to have male friends, you feel like it may lead to zina, but you cannot use the Quran because you can say that I don't like it. You don't like it. I don't feel good about it.
Okay. So let's say, for example, in that case, let's say is married and they have kids. One of the kids stole something, and then the husband or wife decided to take the hudud punishment, and boom, that's it. And then the other. So what do you say about that? Then now you're like, well, the Quran says to do it. Why would you stop me from doing that? And it says don't even have mercy for that person. Don't even show them mercy.
Yeah. I don't know.
How do you deal with that? So that's
haven't came to that point yet.
Right. Yeah. We're talking about like the communities and things like that. These types of questions are going to pop up.
When I come to the point, I will give you the knife and you can come over and.
Yeah. That's why when Abdullah and I and when we sit together with other people, we discuss it. Some people have a very literalist about things. Some people have a very esoteric and metaphorical idea about things. And then how do the two meet?
No, but all of these are allowed. In my opinion, right? All of this is allowed. It's just that how you agree to do it. Let's say we are in part of a group, right? And so one person says that, okay, we have to do it literally. Another person says that, no, it's a guideline. We can do it literally if it reaches a particular. So we can discuss about how we want to implement it. In the guide.
You can also test it, right? So you could, in the United States, they have different laws for each state. Like sometimes the age of marriage is 16, sometimes it's 18. What you could do is each province or state has a small like a country, right? And then they a mix of people who have political knowledge and a mix of people who have religious knowledge. So both parties are included, and then like let's say they have punishment for theft, right? They could do the physical punishment for which then you can see the crime rate first thing and see which one works better, or you could do a mix of the two. So meaning, if someone just steals something small, you can power from them, maybe like give them a ticket or like some prison. Or if someone steals something big, then you can give them prison time as well as cutting their hand. Like if they steal from a bank, then you can go the extreme route. You get my point? Like but you can test these things like in we experimental. Like if we have a bunch,
It really depends on the severity of the situation. So more severe, the more literal. The less severe, the more metaphorical it can go. Because cutting off the hands can also mean like cutting off means in order to do these things. We have to be intelligent enough because Allah has given us the intelligence, right? So we have to be intelligent enough to know where and apply. But unless we have the idea and we should be mature enough to allow that sort of things to. But we're not going to work alone as a dictator, right? It has to be a community, right? So everybody, there will be some checks and balances within a Muslim community.
Oligarchical level stuff. Yeah, I'm more oligarchical about things because you can't give the whole society to vote, because if it's a Muslim country doesn't key a majority. It can never be. The only way a Muslim will be is like if it like the mind power. So the my point. So it would be us a minority, but we're in power. But the majority of the population would still probably not even be QA Mu'min. However, like that's the thing.
The majority can give their opinions about what they like, what they don't like, what they
Yeah,
believe.
they're there. We're still gonna take from the other. We're gonna still take advice from the other people, but the main like serious decision making should be oligarchical and like
It's like
people.
if I had a decision to make on what color the flag is going to be, and everyone can get to vote.
Exactly, like it's on the severity of the topic, right?
Right.
Not
If you were to
rainbow
make it
colours.
But if it's for serious
oligarchical,
laws,
as
like
you mentioned, then what about that takes over that oligarchy?
Yes, correct.
the wrong guy
That's
thinks
dangerous.
it
That's
being an
dangerous.
oligarchy makes it spectrum like more if corruption happens. If you know what I mean? Because like some
there are more
people,
than
like,
one.
yeah,
Like balance in a committee, balance.
This
Just
is
like we have
definitely worth exploring a lot more, in my opinion. This is a
you
very
know,
interesting topic.
AI,
as
right?
I would say really fast, like I have bias because like I in the US the most, but like of the notes I would take would be like how this US like did it. And I'm not talking about the system now. I mean system like constitution and all this. Because all these things are smart. Like I'll even notes to have written documents and these kind of things that keep us in check. And even in the beginning, like it had some form of like oligarchical practice to it.
Right.
So
I going into decaying, the system will decay. Any system will decay. It will always be renewal. It's always a cycle. There's no such thing as something we do today. It will stay good forever. They will always go through some down and up, revival and renewal. So
Okay.
it's
As
something
Thomas,
unavoidable. Yeah.
as
what are you saying about AI?
I'm saying the
there's a
AI,
quote
right? Sorry, you want to say something, Abdullah? Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm saying that even AI, right? When you do coding with AI, right? Nowadays they have like you coding, and then you have another AI that actually checks the coding. They have checks and balance in the AI itself. They can program it, but even then, it at some point, it may not go out of.
Garbage.
Yes, correct. It's a garbage. Yes, checks and balance. Yes, but eventually there will be renewed. There will be decay. There will be renewal. Just like what we're going through now, 1,400 years of nonsense. And then you see suddenly there's a revival of for the truth, and then you see people coming to the Quran, coming to revelation. This is a revival. You know what I'm saying? It's something that happens in the human life. Like of the humanity,
I remember now.
Thomas,
You need to take
Yeah.
notes.
it was about Thomas Jefferson or Benjamin
yeah.
Franklin.
He was. Thomas Jefferson once said that the tree of liberty needs to be replenished often with the blood of tyrants and patriots. So it's kind of along those lines.
Yeah.
So the I like to say about that revival, right? If you know that there's going to be ups and downs, let's say you're looking at a sine wave that's like this, and it's going down, and then it's going to go back up, right? You can actually plan it so there are multiple ups and downs, more frequencies, and so the up part is sustained for a longer period of time. You can actually build in the ups and down within your model, so that let it in a controlled way. So let it go down, come back up, and then you program all of that within your model is what I'm saying.
I just fear that this model, right, it's really outside of our control. Because Allah tells us in the Quran that you never given thought that if what is Allah destroys in those with me, or does rahmat, does mercy, right? That means either He lets us live or He destroys us. Who will save the from the fire of the punishment of azab of nar lah? Question is like the is actually Allah. No matter what we do, right, we will always fall into this sine wave because it's sort of like us, and downs. It's sort of generation and then future generation. We are really have much power. You see, because past generations have done this. They have already written books, to keep this in check, right? But as generation goes by, we forget about them. It's the one that brings us back. Allah is the one that renews our spirit. It's a hidden. I don't know how to explain this, but it's beyond our control, I think.
So this week's session, we've had a very interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Quite a few interesting conversations, mashallah.
Yeah.
What do you
Mashallah.
guys suggest should be next week's topic of conversation?
Was Jesus crucified? That's gonna blow the thing out of the water.
I'll be busy for the next 2 Sundays.
Right. But what do you think that to continue what we're talking about today? So initially I started the podcast, I got on Sheikh Muhammad Darsani, then we got initially talked about my own personal journey, and then Brother Darsani come on, and then we also had the third podcast where we talked about all these issues about uniting the community. So all theoretical framework so far. What can
These
we
are
do?
all
A few
good.
steps. Oh yeah.
I'm to Omar. These kind of, like sometimes at work, right? And I'll listen to a podcast, but then because like halfway from my point.
Mm.
So if it's something about like linguistic, I need to be locked in and have notes, and so something that's like simple to listen to work. Usually, the only thing that's available that I can listen to that's QA related is like correctional is very like beginner's level, like where people are finding out about QA. Like once you know how down bad the Sunnis are, like it's to get boring, to be honest.
Right.
So I think listening to like some very simple convo about like community stuff, like it's be interesting for like other people to listen to while at work. I think it's really nice. Also, just like that's the thing. Like for me, I'm bored of like just like Sunnis are our main enemy. Sunnis are this, Sunnis are that. Like,
Right.
if you want to know who the main enemy are, like go check chapter 5 verse 82. I'm not gonna say their name. Check the verse. And another thing, it's like the adventurous person, like called in my late teens, my passed away, but one thing I knew about my father was he loved vacations. He loved to travel. Right? And a lot of my goals, I want to like travel and do things around the world. For like a big part is like for the community. So I want more action and community work and more of these stuff, like more of this like collaborations than just things that like it gets boring. Like
The number one destination for vacationers in the world is Florida.
Lord,
So you're always welcome over here. Inshallah, we'll host you. We'd love to host you.
inshallah, like in the end of the year, my finance will get better. But like even soon, even, but definitely in the end of the year, I'll be more mobily free. So I'll be inshallah more digitally nomadic. But my point is, it's like kind of thing. It's just like community work, and I've seen people who literally they just to be so active on Discord, and then they just disappeared from the community. And I talked to them on DMs, and they said, "I'm starting to get bored of it. It's just the same thing, like exposing them. Now I don't know what to do after." And it's like some people literally don't know what to do after. After they know the truth, they don't know what to do after. So we need to have a goal. We need a mission that once the people find the truth, they know what to do with the truth. Like most people, they have the light, but they don't know how to use it. Like I was talking about this with Isa the other day. A lot of people, they have the light, but they do not know how to use it. So like we need to have the mission clear. I think one of the most important things we have to teach the younger generation is to be a man of your word, and also to warn them about how bad negligence is. Negligence is the worst thing. It's one of the worst things.
Yeah.
Okay.
In your description of, say, the oligarchy, the refers to mala'u repeatedly, about Balqis, the Sheba qalat ya mala'u, like, oh, you chiefs, right? And then people of Nuh, in the mala'u of the people of Nuh, rejected him. People of Pharaoh, the min Firaun, right? Qawm Firaun. So that's like these chiefs, right? I'm thinking that you were talking about oligarchy, the thought leaders among us, we should put our heads together, come up with solutions for these kinds of things that we're coming up with. And once we do, then we can involve the greater community and then explain to them, this is what we have set up for you. What do you guys think?
I think, can I just say something, brother? This
Yeah.
about the future topics, right? You could include a segment called misconceptions or sectarian misconceptions. Yeah.
Right.
So we have, like, you can have a whole segment with its own intro music and all that. In the daily show and stuff.
Coming in from here.
Yeah. Yeah. You have like maybe a 5 minutes talk on Sunni misconceptions, and
Sure.
and just cover one or two misconceptions for the day. I mean, like 100 there.
You do.
And if you cover two a day, you can go 50 episodes for that segment alone.
Break
Idea
up
lah,
the
just idea.
podcast into segments. What do you think?
Yeah,
Amar?
yeah.
Yeah, as well as another thing I recommend is talk about I just had it in my mind. Talk
That's why
about
you need notes.
like squadrons, buildings on each side of the community. Like for example, Mufti Vec is trying to do in the UK and in Florida, like little squadrons, and like how IRL connections is important. Maybe also talk about like families, because the QA community is very toxic, and it's like what's is like the bad like secular woman, or like the loud baddie one type like acting, and they are like they have this like and they are like active on TikTok, and they're public speakers, right? But it's the good women who are afraid to publicly speak.
You're
But
right.
they're not realizing that the women are not realizing that their negligence might be contributing to the corruption. Like that's the
Right.
thing.
It just
So
goes
it's like we
against their
kind of have to
nature. They like to be shy and they like to be reserved, which
yeah, but that like but it's like ultimately that's not what works. Like when we're up against all of this, then they have to get out of the comfort zone. So we have to kind of grab the sensible people from the community, men and women, the brothers and sisters, and elevate them.
right.
That's the thing.
That's a very good point, Brother Armor. So
And
this
also,
brother Avaga is mentioned, like, go meet like-minded possible. What do you guys think about that?
of course, if you can, but
If you can.
the QA is yeah.
It's even just about numbers being small. It's just a lack of ambition. Like I try to help Netherlands community, meetups, and I try to help UK. Sadly, not much effort, but I think after meeting Mufti Vec, he's actually like he's for the UK community. As for the Netherlands, it's still problematic. As for it's difficult. And in DTX, he apparently says he has a Texas squadron, but I personally think he should market his squadron. Like he should do IRL vlogs and like he potential to inspire other people. So I think not just keeping your squadron secret, but like displaying it to the public so that other people know the formula.
Right.
And the question of to do after you understand a QA, right? So there is a natural progression, right? So you are QA, you go through the that you study, and then what is that supposed to bring you to a point where you live your life as a Muslim, actually, that is that this organ together is when that person has already living his life properly according to the Quran, This
Yeah.
community is he comes back to replenish, to sort of, when he goes out again to live his life. That's all we actually are supposed to do. Yeah, because in a salati wa nusuki, right? Wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin. So the word nusuk, it actually linguistically connected to the word trying to keep your faith, right, in check. So your connection to Allah and keeping your faith in check is two things that you need to do. We come in, do set up like we should set up like places people can go to keep renewing their faith. What I'm saying, because end of the day, once you understand what you need to do as a Muslim, how much of justice you need to, is good to your parents, how much you must be just, and all this, or you must apply it in your actual life, apply it in your business. And business really got nothing to do with the community. The QA community is where the person comes back to get a sip of the revival, and then he goes back and lives his life. That's what it's all about, actually.
Subhanallah.
That's a good point. Now, person that's let's say we find ourselves in a certain position, right? Quran translation, community building, debate platform, business networking, etc. Each situation requires a different action plan. So if we were to take inventory of what exactly we have, capabilities, who are the people, and we become conservative with our time and resources, we can actually formulate an action plan which will have predictable results by the permission of Allah, right? So for example, let's say we have 5 people that are the thought leaders. We can even create a debate platform where we hone it, by repetition, and we make it a space where people feel comfortable, come in, and then sharing their views, and then posting those results on the YouTube channels, etc. And how we demonstrate the difference between how we do things and how everybody else does things. Spaces, you have people shouting at each other, yelling, screaming, fighting, their names, whatnot, and the things just goes out of control. In our space, I've found so far, yeah, that happens sometimes, but I would say over 90% of the time we're very calm, very organized, very in each other. And also, the opinion on this point, that if we're able to share that with the greater community, for example, big influencers like Kim Iverson and Jimmy Dore and Joe Rogan, etc. All these people, right? They have on their shows Muslim experts, right? And these Muslim experts are giving Sunni views most of the time, sometimes the Shia view, never the Quran lone view.
That's a good point. We try to get on those shows more.
Right. And there are also lots of anti-Muslim groups out there who are quoting all of these, or the lopping off the heads and the intolerance and all the things we're against also. You know what I mean? So there's a way of somehow, like if we're able to demonstrate that we are doing things in a good way, right? And if we don't even do it, it's just all theoretical. There's no demonstration. There's no blueprint. We can't even show anybody anything. Then no one's going to listen to you. We have to actually put our theory to practice and then record it. And now we can share something with people that they can visually see. They can witness it. Oh yeah, this is a better way. Now when you start doing that, that's how when you start getting more and more people involved, you start building a name brand as honorable, reputable people. And when you do that, then you start attracting figures who will take you seriously, and get that audience, and then you can reach out to a much wider group of people. Now, I can give you a practical example of how this was done just over the last 10 weeks with the Imana podcast, the podcast that I'm doing with my dad. In the beginning, it was just a close circle of friends. We all got together, not friends, but working together. We are also friends. But we just interviewed them, and you guys can check it out. There's like 10. And then sooner, and we started demonstrating how we're discussing these crucial about natural health. People were able to share that with other people who are prominent figures in the health, natural health space worldwide. Known people. They started coming on our podcast. We did a podcast with Barbara O'Neill. Barbara O'Neill is an internationally renowned speaker on natural health. And she came on our podcast. It was fantastic. We put it on, this is what I'm saying. It's something that in the beginning, you're not going to have a huge audience. That's okay. But whatever you do, you use your time and effort conservatively. We don't sit here wasting time and, living in the theoretical world. We do something practical that converts our theory into something practical so we can show it to people, demonstrate it. Yes,
Subhanallah.
brother. What do you think?
You know, weird way, like us, like counts, right? For example, that's like but a tight, but it's like an amount of people. In a way, it's like stronger. For example, like just knew me from Discord, but I had like a few people like that one other Titanium. He found my Discord through my YouTube channel.
Mhm.
But because I don't have much like traffic, like people can, it's like I spend the time with the person more, and we become like closer. Whereas if you have like 40,000, right, and you have like all the people, like all the traffic, you can't really spend much time with those people who are like, you get my point. Like there's like,
Absolutely.
you get my point.
Yeah.
So in a way, there's some good things about like not being too popular
Right.
in a way.
Yeah. A lot of the riffraffs coming in and should, that happen also. But, and I'm not really bothered a whole lot about the quantity or numbers of people. When a help will come, they will rush towards the deen of Allah in numbers, So we don't have to even worry about that. I'm right
Yeah.
now focused on the few of us who are, thought leaders, care about, our souls and the community, and want to give something back. Don't want to waste our time. We don't like if we spend 5 hours or 10 hours, if we can accomplish something really big in those 10 hours, that we should be focusing on that rather than, do something, try to always choose the good over the bad and better over the good. If we're constantly doing that, then we're going to improve our processes. And what I'm telling you guys right now is from experience. And I've done this multiple times. That even my teacher, Sheikh Muhammad ibn Yahya Ninawi, when 2001 came to our community, he was a no-name person. Nobody knew who he was. He was like a of knowledge, a lot of knowledge in his mind. Nobody knew him, right? So we worked on making, like, firstly, he started teaching us, right, formal courses in the mosque, right? So we started to record them. Back in those days, 2001, 2002, internet wasn't a huge thing. Everybody didn't know how to make websites. So I knew how to, I had a web server. I put in the website and then started uploading these lectures and these courses online for free. And people would stream it and they would learn all around the world. So he just got, something that we can show to people and share with people. That's the point. Sitting around just talking about things. I'm not saying we're doing that. I'm saying that that all has a value. We should be talking about things. But at the same time frame, if we can achieve something, we can demonstrate something. So I like DQuestion's idea about segmenting the podcast into sections. I like that idea. So one can talk about, the beliefs of the sectarians. Another one can talk about for example, we all take homework to do for the week. This week, we're going to work on this and then come back and we discuss that, what I've done this week, etc. It'll be a really good way of, like, maybe just for a couple of minutes. You don't have to go on for, like, right now, for like almost hours, but like, do a small status report, and then we can also have an actual formal debate. We can demonstrate that to people. This is how a debate is supposed to be done. Right now, whenever you go virtually any debate online, they act like animals. This is what people think is debate.
Brother, one more thing you can add is a segment for to come and question. Don't have to. I mean, exactly like what you. I'm just agreeing with you, lah. It's not a new idea. So what I'm trying to say is, like, perhaps the last. I don't know whether you want to do it in the first, in the middle, or in the last 5 to 10 minutes. let people come and question us, and the answer we give actually in the next
That's a great
episode.
idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Like
mean,
put
let
on
people
a
come.
hot seat.
Yeah. Come and put on the hot seat, and then show people that you can come, you can actually question us, but I mean in a diplomatic way, and we can take it and we go with it on the next segment. The next segment can actually end with answering the segment's questions, and
Right.
then the last segment can be a new set of people.
So I'm going to give
DQuestion.
all four of us a little bit of homework to put these ideas, send me a message, these suggestions, really good suggestions. This Avaga says, I recommend you guys to have Quranic Islam at some point if you're willing for one of these podcasts. Just a personal recommendation. What does that
What
mean,
does that
Quranic
mean?
Islam?
He's a YouTube channel, but he's a little bit more on the Quran centric side. But he's like has 6,000 subs. I feel like he is easier to get on, though, to be
Okay.
honest.
So, Brother Avaga, we will welcome you to come on the podcast, discuss and talk to us about what you consider Quranic Islam. So if you're willing, let us know, inshallah.
No, I think he means the YouTube channel Quranic Islam.
Oh, okay.
Get me?
I was misunderstanding. No, I got it. All right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
of course, we'd like to invite all of you guys. Here's the WhatsApp number. Please send us a message, and we'll plan for it. Same thing for anyone who has any questions or comments or feedback, suggestions. Send a message to that WhatsApp number, and inshallah, we'll address it.
Inshallah. Should also have maybe having a podcast about health. I don't know. You could also have a kind of debate because there's three like factions: natural health, casual natural health people, and then there's the I don't want to use the word extreme. It's just extreme because it's bizarre. Like maybe it's not entirely bad, but meters and like these
carnivore
people,
diet.
Maybe if we can just like have a debate so we can come to some kind of consensus or agreement, because those need to be like debated. I think personally.
Sounds good. Yeah. So all of us, let's put together some messages and we'll get the suggestions. We'll have a discussion on it, inshallah.
Yeah, maybe make a podcast group or podcast channel.
Brother, waiting
Okay. I'm late to the party. Okay.
It's planning, right?
No, actually, there's a podcast one right in here. Channel called podcast. It's under the focus area.
I see. It's good, alhamdulillah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We appreciate your time and your expertise and your sincere intentions.
No worries.
Okay.
Salam. Peace. Take care.
Intro. Somebody had a negative statement about the outro intro.